Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our final part of our three-part series on open water swimming. Um, Today, we're going to be talking about a topic which I know is very close to everyone's heart, and that is dangers and annoyances of swimming in open water. Um, this is the final part of a culmination of a three-part series on open water swimming. On the first part, we spoke about the geography of this particular beach and a few differences between the swimming pool and open water. Last Sunday, we spoke about open water sighting tips, and today we want to talk about dangers and annoyances that open water swimmers encounter while swimming in the sea. So, I would like to divide this topic into three sections basically, because the way we see it, especially at this beach, there are three annoyances slash dangers that you may face. The first one that I would like to talk about are water vessels or boats. Now, this can further be divided into two more categories, which is motorized and non-motorized boats. Um, Again, this beach, we are pretty certain that you will not encounter any motorized boats. However, I must tell you about how it works. So, generally, boats are something that you will find in the ocean. Like I said, motorized boats include anything from fishing trawlers to zodiacs to anything that has a propeller, basically. Um, Non-motorized boats, however, are probably what you can see in the distance. There's something like a sailboat, things like kayaks, anything that doesn't have a propeller or doesn't have an engine. This beach, motorized boats are not allowed with the exception of fishing trawlers, fishing boats rather, with the exception of fishing boats, and there are very few of them. With that exception, no motorized boats are allowed on this beach. So you'll only find sailboats um over here. Now, the thing about boats that you need to be aware of is a motorized boat can be heard because the sound travels very clearly underwater. And the moment an engine is on, you'll probably hear it from a much further distance. Non-motorized boats, again, are very silent. They can't be heard. So what we suggest is common practice, and what we suggest that is something that all of you all do when you're swimming in the sea, is every 50 to 100 meters, just stop your swim, do a 360 pivot. You can use your drown proofing method, which we showed you last Sunday, and just scan the area for any boats. Most of the time, the main point is that the boat should be able to see you, which is why we always recommend that you wear a very bright colored swimming cap when you're out in the sea. It's extremely important that the boat has seen you. Once he sees you, the chances of any accident are minimized quite a bit. So, very important when you're swimming, wear a bright color swimming cap. If possible, if you know the people who are going to be sailing or motoring out that day, tell them where you'll be so they avoid coming into that area. So, that of course is the first danger slash annoyance. Motorized boats slash non-motorized boats, boats in general, you need to keep an eye out for them. The second very important point that you need to keep in mind while swimming, especially in the sea, is fishing nets. Now, this beach, again, you won't find too many of them, but by and large, fishing nets are something that you will encounter when you're doing an open water swim. Remember, fishermen use these parts of the ocean, these parts of the sea for their livelihood. So it's extremely important to know where the fishing nets are, which is why we always recommend that you speak to a lifeguard before you enter the water. You tell him that you're planning to swim a certain distance, tell him the geography where you're planning to swim, and ask them whether there are any fishing nets. Having said that, sometimes nets can be put up in a place where even the lifeguard may not be aware of it. It's very rare, but it is a possibility. which is why we tell all our swimmers to be constantly aware of their surroundings when they're in the water. The ocean is very dynamic. When you swim regularly, you'll realize that no 2 days swimming in the sea are ever the same. So it changes on a day-to-day basis. In fact, it changes every few hours. So you need to keep an eye out. Normally, fishing nets will be very clearly demarked with small buoys, which will be attached to the end of the line or to the top of the line. So you will be able to see a fishing net from a distance. If you see floating buoys, as far as possible, avoid that area, because it could mean that there are nets, and in case you do get entangled with a net, um, you could be in a spot of trouble. So it's best if you know where the nets are and just give it a clear wide berth so you're not anywhere near the nets. The third part is, very importantly, is the, when we're talking about dangers and annoyances, the third part that I would like to talk about is the sun, and that is, you know, heat stroke, sunstroke, stuff like that. Again, it's very important that you stay properly hydrated before going into the water. This is something that a lot of people don't realize, and that is, you really lose a lot of water when you're swimming, and you don't realize it because you can't see yourself sweat. And the second thing about salt water is it tends to dry out your mouth and leave a salty taste in it. So it's very important that you drink a large amount of water before you start. It should be sufficient, not too much as well, but sufficient amount of water before you start your swim, and make sure that you're properly hydrated at all times, because being properly hydrated is something which can create the difference between a nice happy swim and an uncomfortable swim. Also remember, the buildup of lactic acid is something that will happen if you don't have enough of water, and that can cause additional cramping, muscle cramping, soreness. So it's better to have enough of water. Water is the best. You don't need to drink anything else, just plain water, or if you want to add maybe just a pinch of salt and maybe a little sugar to it, that's fine, but we generally recommend plain water. That works best. Also important is using the right sunscreen or sunblock, especially for people coming from colder climates, or people with fairer skin. You may want to use a sunblock with an SPF factor of at least 25 and above, to make sure that your skin stays protected at all times. You don't want to get a nasty sunburn after coming out of the water. That's extremely important. Again, keep in mind, when we swim for our events, it starts really early in the morning, so the chances of getting a sunburn are minimized. But having said that, it's always good to be protected, so always use a sunblock or sunscreen before going into the water. These are the three main annoyances that we would see at this beach, especially. Just to give you a recap of them, we said the first one would be boats. Again, boats can be broken up into two further categories, that's motorized and non-motorized. The second one would be fishing nets. Like I said, please keep an eye out for fishing nets when you're swimming in the sea. And the third one, of course, is the sun, dehydration slash sunburn. These are the three major problems that you could encounter. Somebody asked me about what about marine life. Well, nothing much to worry about, at least over here. The only marine life that you will encounter at this time of the year are a few small, very small fish. They'll definitely keep a wide berth, they won't go anywhere near you, so you don't have to worry about that. There have been reports, and we have seen a family of dolphins a little further up on the beach, in the sea, that is. But they're totally harmless, more curious than anything. Don't try and touch them, play with them, make friends with them. These are not domesticated dolphins like the kinds you see on television. These are wild dolphins, and they need to be respected. So as long as you leave them alone, they will not bother you in any way. Other than that, There's absolutely nothing to worry about. The question that just came up is, do we expect fishing nets in the Goa Triathlon swim course? Kiran, that's a good question. Now, the answer to that is no, there will not be any fishing nets during the Goa Triathlon swim course. The reason for that is the fishermen are employed by us for the Goa Triathlon, and they will not be fishing on that day during the course. So you can be sure that during any of the events that we conduct, there will not be fishing nets. However, I did make this advisory, and that is because this video would go out to people who would be training for the Goa Triathlon on other days, and that is the reason why we recommend that you always keep an eye out for fishing nets or any objects which are in the water. I think that pretty much wraps it up as far as the dangers and annoyances that we can think of on this beach. If there's anything, like I said last time as well, if there's anything that you would like to know, if there's any further information that you require about sea swimming, do feel free to write to us and let us know, or do feel free to join us at any time, because we swim every Sunday, and that is from the month of November to the middle of May. We are here on this beach every Sunday from 11 o'clock onwards. So anytime you feel like coming, and we have a lot of people coming from different parts of the country. We have our friends coming in from Bangalore. We have people coming in from Delhi. We even have people coming in all the way from Assam just to swim with us on a Sunday. So it would be great if you guys can join us. Just let us know in advance so we can take the necessary measures to make sure that you have a nice, comfortable swim at Bambolim Beach. Well, that wraps up the three-part series. Thanks so much for staying tuned in, and of course for following our page Enduro Sports Goa on Facebook. We will see you at the Goa Triathlon. Till then, take care of yourselves, happy training, and all the best. Cheers.